All right. Just like I was explaining, going through what we have done so far, we started looking at how to analyze or to perform aggregate analysis with Python with the help of the inbuilt aggregate functions within Python. So what we did here is simply implementing the very first aggregate function known as sum with no criteria. Why I said this is not a conditional aggregate analysis. If you look at this particular code that we wrote here, it means that we sum up all the values under total profits. So there was no criteria for this summation. We simply sum up all the value, but as we proceed in tonight's section, we are going to see how we can even perform this same summation analysis by specifying a single or multiple criteria. And that is one of the area that will be needed most when you are practicing. Okay, now I think we only cover some, all the analysis we did. Okay, we also did for average. So I told us that in Python, there is no inbuilt function called average. Instead, it's represented with mean. What we analyzed here was the total average of revenue from the data sets we are working with. So let's quickly push further. So we have covered all this slide. So this is exactly where we stop. So we're going to continue from uh, counts function. So count is another inbuilt aggregate function within Python, which can be used to analyze the total numbers of times an item or a variable appears. So this is basically used for counting analysis, So just like I've defined it here, I said count function in data analysis is used to know how many times an entry appears within a given data set. So what is the syntax? Let's look at how we can practically use this function to answer analysis question. For example, we're working with different data, but let me just explain it based on the data set I was working with when developing this slide. So this is actually telling us that there is a feature or header in the data set that is recording total sales. So what we are simply doing here is that we are counting the total numbers of transaction within that database or data set. So as you can see here, the simple syntax is by referencing the name of your data. In this case, it's represented with DA. And then selecting from that data frame, that particular header, you want to count the total values under it, and then concatenating the count function. That is the simple syntax, just like when we did for sum. So now let's quickly relate this to our data set. So we are still working with data one as the name of my data frame. So let me use comment to explain it. Application of counts function. for aggregates. Aggregate analysis. For aggregate analysis. So I'll simply observe the syntax. Remember, I said the syntax is simply calling the name of your data. In this case, our data set name or frame name is data1. Then from this particular data, we are selecting the header we want to count or the header we want to use as the criteria for the summation, or sorry, for the counting. So there must be a criteria. There must be a particular field that you are using for the counting. So in this case, I could just use any of the header. We actually output the same numbers of records. I think this, let me find out if this, okay, yeah, this is the one we have worked on. So let's say I'm counting based on, I think we also edited, let me just shrink my notebook a little. I know, yeah, let's say I'm counting based on revenue. So I'll copy the header to avoid typographical error. And then when your notebook time out, like I've told us before, just click on one of them and then go back there and paste the header. Now concatenate the count function. Okay, so if I run it, it's going to give me the total numbers of entries in that particular data frame to be 100. Okay, so that is how to simply apply the counts. I believe that is clear because it's almost the same thing with the sum function. But there was additional analysis that I did while using the sum, which I also want us to observe. Now, do not forget that our role is to be able to draw actionable insights or findings from a given data set as data analyst, that we guide them in smart decision making. So we need to ask ourselves, what actually determine this counting? What are we trying to achieve? Is it that we just want to know the total numbers of entry? One, that is a valid analysis question. So sometimes it can be multi-dimensional counting. It can be, more complex than just counting everything you have. It could be that the organization want to compare probably to maybe, okay, I think when we use that is when we get to the criteria aspect. Because right now I'm still teaching us general counting. So when we get to criteria aspects, we might be asked to count based on a selected maybe 6 channel or item type. Out of this 100 that we have outputted, the company might want to know for certain decision that they want to make, they might want you to give them the differences between the total count of baby food items sold and the cereal items sold. So in that case, you are going to count them individually, and then you will now subtract the result of one from the other, and then before you arrive at the direct question. Okay, but for now, since we are still doing general counting, we might not be able to do that. So now this is for the counting. Now we are going to single criteria aggregates, conditional functions, application in data analysis, also in Python. Now, this aspect is very, very key that we understand it, okay? Because the ones we have done so far under sum, under average, under count, they are referred to as general counting. So you were not actually counting with defined criteria. You were simply counting all. Okay? So there are times an organization will want you to perform analysis of counting based on a particular unique variable within your data. So in that case, you are going to adopt this set of analysis we want to perform. But why I target single? Because we are progressing from general counting to single criteria counting, and then we will not end it with multiple criteria counting, just like what we are learning in Excel. Remember that we started with sum, count, then average before we advance to sum if for single criteria, and then before we now advance to sum ifs, the one with the letter S, which enabled us to count multiple or count with multiple criteria. So that same way we are going with Python. It's just like Python version of it that we are actually performing. So I'm going to also start with the sum function. But this time around, we are concatenating it with another function called query. So the moment your counting surpass general counting, or the moment you are counting based on a specific condition, then you have to bring in the query function. Okay, now here we are looking at analysis question, though we are going to convert it to the data set we are working with right now. But let me just explain it based on what we have on the screen first. Now, the sum if, the question we are answering here is, what is the total revenue from only e-wallet? So I believe we are familiar with this data. So this data set has a header, and the header is named payments, where different types of payments that were used by different customers to purchase items from this company were recorded. And from what we find out from that data set, there are three categories of payment method. They have e-wallets, they have cash, and then we have cash credits. So in this case, the company wants you as a data analyst to be able to give them the total revenue. That is what the values under total, where e-wallet was used as a method of payment. That is what they really want you to do. Now, you can see that it's just one criteria that is determining the summation. That is, what the function will do is to scan through all the values under total and add only the ones that can be attributed towards e-wallet. So let's start the explanation from here. So here is where I created a data object series, which is known in this case as like your variable or data frame, or let's say a variable that is going to hold the output, the result you are going to get. So it's not a defined function. I just use it because I'm trying to relate it with the sum if for single criteria. So yours can be any name. Now, the DA is the current data set where I have this total as a header and also have payment as a header, under which I am selecting this as the criteria for summing up the value here with the help of the sum function. So you can see that if you do not understand where we started from, then it will be a little bit difficult. Okay, now that we understand the concept of this, so our focus right now will not be on this. Instead, it will be on the application of the query function. Okay, so now I believe that is clear. Is that clear to us? Please let me get a response before I continue. Is it clear? Let me just get a response from at least one person before I continue, just to know if we are good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, let's quickly go for the application. So I want to believe that we are writing. That is why I'm holding on for some time so that you can copy. Now, let's quickly go to our data set. So in this case, we are working with different data sets. So let's start by constructing our assume analysis question. But before that, let me title this section. So application of query function okay, let's say and sum for single criteria analysis. So what is the task? The analysis question. So let me bring in the data closer so that we can draft the analysis question together. So let's assume that from this data set, the company wants us to give them the total revenue per or for baby item products. So the company wants to know the total revenue for baby food item products, just that. So our question will be analyze the total revenue for only baby food item type. That is the question. So for us to answer it, let me create an object, baby underscore food, and then equals to, then select the name of the data, data1, then concatenate it with the query function, query, and then use a single string like this first to envelope both the header and the criteria value. All of them should be in the single word quotation. Now I'm going to explain it better as I proceed. Now here, in this case, our criteria for the summation of the total revenue is the value under what item type. So I am going to take this Control C and then put it here. And then I will now say equals to from our basic Python class. I have explained that where you have two equal sign, it means equality, not assignment. So we are simply saying that if a value in that particular defined header is exactly what we are going to define. And now, since you have already used single quotation, okay, now the value as the criteria for the summation should be in double quotation. If you use another single, inside the first single quotation, it might throw error. So I will use double quotation. Now, you can also reverse it. Let's say the first quotation is double. Then the one defining the criteria should be single. Now, I will just call that particular item, highlight it, copy it to avoid typographical error and put it inside the double quotation. Okay, so now we have to select the header with the value that will be summed up. So to do that, we have to use selection bracket to call that heading. And the heading we are calling is the total revenue. Okay, now is a string as well. So we have to quote it either with single or double and then nest it inside. Then finally, you need to attach the function you are using, sum, to that particular word header, just to show that the summation is working on the values under total revenue. So while selecting item type equals to baby food, what that did under or with the query is to first of all what identify them, and then for the sum, identify them for the total revenue before the sum function can sum them up. That is exactly what is happening. So once I run it now, I should be able to get my answer stored in what? Baby food. So if I want to see the result, of course, I will just call what? Baby food, and then run it. So this is the total revenue generated by this organization where baby food item was sold. So it, like I was trying to explain the other time, the direct analysis question may not be this particular value we just outputted. It could be that this value is part of the value that is required for you to get the final result. Let's assume that the company want to make certain decision and they are contemplating whether to put more money on baby food they are contemplating between two products. So let me just call the data set. Let's say data 1. Now let's assume that the company is contemplating between baby food and cereal, but they want to know the sales strengths of these two products before they know which one they are to allocate more capital or fund to. So in this case, we have already analyzed the total revenue for baby food. Now we have to do that same thing for cereal. Then we will now subtract, or from there we will now be able to know which one is doing better. So let's say I want to do that. Let's say I'm asked to do the same for cereal. Do the same for cereal. So let's say I'm answering that same question here. So let's say do same for cereal item. So this is the second time we are doing it. So I would say what? Cereal equals to the data set name data 1, and then concatenate it with the query function, and then is a function, open the parenthesis bracket. Then this time around, okay, let's still go with single quote. Then I am taking the header, is the same header we are selecting, because the criteria value is still under what? Item type. So I'll put that here. And then the next thing is for me to say equals to, and then define the criteria. The criteria for the summation this time around is cereal. So I copy it, also Control C, and then paste it here. Then of course, the next thing is to select the header for the summation. Use the square bracket. That is also a string. And then I pick the total revenue. Control C, and then come back here, and then Control V, close the gap, and then concatenate the sum function as well, and then run your command, and then you get the output. To get the output, I have to display or call the object, data object, and then you get the result. Now, if we want to know the differences, that is what we call the correlation analysis. Remember, I have told us before that every data analyst look out for three good things, and these three things will help him or her to arrive at the final conclusion. When you perform your analysis, where you are analyzing categorical value or unique variables, you have to compare. But in this case, we are comparing just two. We are comparing baby food with cereal. So if I want to know the margin between their differences, what I'm going to do, since I've stored both of them in a valid data object, so I can simply say, therefore, to calculate or analyze the differences, what I'll simply do, I will call baby food. Remember the logic I gave us the other time. Just type the first two letters, hit the tab button on your keyboard, it will output the name, and then subtract it from cereal. Then the answer should be stored in a valid variable as well. So let's say what differences is equals to this. So if I run it, the answer is generated and stored in differences. So if I run this, I should be able to get the answer. So this is the difference between baby food. But first, let's see which one has or which one generated higher revenue. Automatically is what? The baby food. So this will help the organization in investing their capital. Okay, so now what I am going to do, I'm going to allow one of us to share our screen and perform one of these, if not all, analysis before we continue. I just want to combine the training with classwork today. So who is joining with laptop that can share his or her screen so that but I advise everybody to be doing it if you are with your laptop quickly. So I'm giving just 10 minutes for that, but please, I want to stay on someone's screen while that is going on, so I can maybe moving from one screen to another. So let me start with Dr. Uzoma Valentine. Please kindly share your screen and perform this same task. You might be using different data, but just give us something equivalent to what I have taught us so far. Quickly. I am waiting, please. I am waiting. Dr. Uzoma Valentine, please, we are waiting for your screen to come on. But if you have not started your Anaconda, that is going to waste our time. I can just move to someone else. Mrs. Onye, is your screen?
Please move to someone else. Let me restart my Anaconda.
Okay, Mrs. Onye, is your laptop with you? I hope she's here.
So please, good evening. My Anaconda is not up.
Okay.
I'm trying to restart it.
Let's see. Is your Anaconda on, please? Please, if it's not, let me just proceed. Probably you take your time to practice. I think one of these days I have to check what we are all doing. I don't think Messi is here, so let me continue so that we don't waste our time unnecessarily. All right, so that is the application of the sum together with the query function for single analysis. Now let's go back to our slide and also take another one. So here we are also applying the same query with single criteria, but we are using average. So we are answering average related question. And what is the question based on the data sets I assume here? What is the total average payment by cash? What is the total average payment by cash? So the same syntax. The only thing that is changing is what? The end. You define what mean instead of what sum. So let me quickly go straight to my notebook and implement it. So let me start by calling, okay, let me use a comment. So what we are analyzing here the same application of dot query and dot mean for same single analysis, same single question, single criteria analysis, single criteria analysis. So what is the question? The question is, the question is from, okay, let's look at the data together. Data 1. Okay, so let's try and focus on another header this time around. Let's focus on total profit. Let's focus on total profit. Now, the question is, analyze the total profits. Let me be writing it. The question is, analyze the total profits for offline sales channel. That is the question. Offline sales channel. So my syntax is going to be, I'll quickly name it a descriptive name. Offline total profit. Offline total profit is equals to the name of my data set, which is data 1 dot query. Okay, then the header this time around is what? Sales channel. That is where the criteria for the calculating the average is. So Control C and then paste it. Then equals to the criteria is offline. Control C and also what? Paste. And then select the header with the values to calculate the average using square brackets. The header is a string, so I'll put it in string. And then I'll copy what? This. Control C. Once you understand the syntax, it's very simple. Then concatenate the function mean. Okay, then you run it, you get your answer stored in your object. So to call the object, I'll just type the first 2 letters, hit the tab button, and then it brings out the entire name, and then shift and enter to get my result. So this is the total average of total profits generated from offline transaction. Now, if you look at this data set, under this particular header, there are only two unique variables, offline and online. So let's say we want to compare, we want to know which one is doing better so that when next they want to run adverts, okay, when they want to run advert, they will know the best channel to use, whether they should run more offline advert or more what online adverts, because that is the decision. That is how it's going to help them in terms of making decision. So let's do the same for online and then know the differences. So let's say, just like I did before, same for online channel, same for online channel. So the syntax is going to be online equals to the name of my data set, data1, concatenate it with the query function, and then your string. Then we are also pasting the same sales channel because the value is also there. Then equals to this time around we call online. Okay. Control C. Right, then select the same total profit. I think I have it here. Let me take it from here. Control C. So I will have just copied the whole of this, but I just want us to do it again so that you will master it. Then concatenate the mean. Then run it. You get your answer stored in online object, ON tab. Click, get the answer. So you can see that offline is doing better than what online. So this we have direct impact in the company decision making. So they will be able to know which of this channel. So at the end of the day, don't forget that you should have maybe a particular cell where you are documenting all your observations as you are performing this analysis. Once you are done with one like this, you study it, like what I just observed now. Offline generated more average profit than what the online. So put it in writing there. So as you are performing, you are piling them up somewhere, either in PowerPoint or in a particular cell at the top. So at the end of the day, that is what we form your executive report that you are going to present to them. So don't forget that when you do your assignment, try and write down your observation. And where recommended, a recommendation is needed, please also outline it for them. That we also help them to navigate well. Any question, please? Do we have any question? I believe it's also clear, right? Let me get a response. Or if we have loaded our Anaconda, who is ready now? Who is ready? I just want us to do some classwork today. Who is ready now? If your Anaconda is ready, please, who is ready so that I can enable you to share your screen and then show us what you have done so far, particularly on today's topic. Mr. Valentine, is your all ready now? Mrs. Oye, is your all ready? Mercy, I've not been able to hear from you. Hope all is well.
Nobody is answering. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Okay, so I think I'll pause and wait until I get response. So share your screen, share your screen. Let's see how you can implement one of the function. Okay, so you have to be talking while you are working so that we can follow you up. It's part of the class. So what tasks you want to perform, you have to be explaining.
Okay. But you can. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. I just want to use the method you used to calculate the total revenue for offline transaction using the Amazon data set. So I have saved it as a variable name of total underscore.
Okay.
I, I,
Network, I don't know whether it's from my end. Network is breaking. Is it the same thing with others?
me.
The network is breaking seriously. Okay.
But I can hear you clearly.
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
I said I'm trying to perform the total revenue for offline using the offline
Okay.
method.
All right. Go ahead.
So I'm writing the syntax for that query. Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I had an error message. I think it's because of the sales channel, which is toward
Okay, yeah,
capture.
it requires a cleanup. But since is that what is actually complaining? What is he saying? Must be string to be evaluated. Do you really have total in that data set? Do you have total? I think it's total profit, right? Not just total.
Oh, total underscore revenue.
Yeah, that is
Yes.
why I always say you should copy. You should always copy from the header to avoid this kind of issue.
It's still the same problem.
What's the same complaint, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the issue is this. Now, when I was explaining, I said something. The first string is covering both the criteria header and the criteria value. But your own first single string is covering just sales channel instead of spanning over both sales channel and the offline. Offline will be inside the single string. Did you understand it?
The offline is inside
No,
the query
no. The
function.
single string is covering all. Now, let me share my screen and show you what I'm saying. Let me share my screen and show you what I am saying. Where is mine? Now, look at this here. Can you see this string here? Look at where it closes. Well, your own, this very one, you terminated it here. Have you seen it? Please, I want you to talk to me so that I can know if you are getting what I'm explaining.
So do I stop sharing my own?
Yes, you have to stop sharing so that you can see the one I'm showing you. Then you go back and repeat the correction. Can you see my screen now?
Okay.
Look at this here. You instead of leaving it here, you terminated it here. So this single string is actually covering everything. So try it and run it and get back to us. Let's see. Is the error corrected now?
I'm trying to run it, sir.
How far?
Said invalid syntax.
Oh yeah, share your screen again. Let me see. Let me see. I don't think it's the same error. This could be another error. Share your screen again. So you can see the reason why practicing is very, very important. Some of us, we are just watching, thinking that you can handle this. So you have to start practicing so that when you encounter error like this, we can put it together to debug them. So let me say the syntax. What do you have here? Sales channel. You see, your header where you have total revenue, total underscore revenue. Is that how you have it in your data set?
Yes, that is how it is.
Let me see it. I want to confirm it. Okay.
This
Okay.
is it.
Okay, I've seen it. Now go back to the code again. Let me check. I just want to be sure that the error is not what we are thinking. I want to see your code. Okay, you can see what it's even outputted here. The last line of your code. I want to see the last line of your code.
Yeah, sales channel equals to offline.
That is the complaint, right?
Yes.
So which means that what is say channel equals to offline. Okay, yeah, it could be the space between the say channel. So you try and thank God that I've given us the solution under data cleaning. So when you encounter this kind of error, you go and rename that header so that you can convert the empty space between the sales and the channel to underscore, or you merge them together. All right, so you can stop sharing now. Let's quickly proceed. I just wanted us to do at least a few classwork as we go with the class. All right, so that is for me. Now let's quickly do, let's use this same concept of single aggregate analysis to answer a counting question. So here we are analyzing the total numbers of transactions made with cash. Okay, so which means that all I need to do in this case, I can actually copy this, Ctrl+C, and then paste it here. Let me write the tax. The tax is analyze, now that we understand the concepts, analyze the total numbers of transaction where, okay, let me just transaction for that same word offline. So now we want to compare the total number of transactions, because the last time we performed the average, total average, we observed that the offline generated more profits or more average profits than the online. Now the company may want to know what factor actually determine this outcome. Is it that the numbers of transactions performed under offline, are they more than the ones on online? That could be a factor. So that is why counting analysis is very important. So that will enable you to know whether the reason why you are having what particular variable is doing better is because that variable transaction were more than the one that is underperforming. So in this case, this counting analysis will expose that to us. So for all offline only, so I will just change here. So I will just add the count just to differentiate it from the initial variable, because I'm still maintaining the same syntax. And then the only thing that we change is the function. You just change it to what? Count. So if I run it, and then the answer is generated and stored in counts. Counts underscore. Okay, so why is it not bringing it? Because let me just see again. Just wanted it to. Just want to call it out the way. Okay. Okay, so let me just copy it to save my time. Control C, Control V, and then run it. So I have 50 of them. So if I copy the same function and try it for same for online, sorry, that was supposed to be for, okay, yeah, same for offline. So I will just change here to offline. Okay, then I think we are good to go. No, we have to bring offline here. Control C. Re-execute. Get the results. Let me just copy since it's not coming out from the library. Control C. Are you sure we are having the same number of transactions? Let's check. So it appears we have the same number of transactions. From both offline and what? Online, from what we are getting. Okay, so that is how to apply the count together with the query function for counting analysis. Now, we want to advance to multiple criteria because all the analysis we have done so far, they are for one criteria. So if, for example, we are asked to analyze from this same data set that we are working on, let's assume that we are asked to find out the total number of transactions or the total summation of revenue for offline where baby item or where country is equals to value. That is two criteria. Two criteria. Because the first criteria is you are summing up the total revenue based on what? The sales channel offline. And then not just that, the summation should narrow down to only baby food item. That is two different criteria. So it can increase from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. So just for you to know how to handle it. So that is the aspects we are moving